you have to understand, film stars are genetically gifted with better features, and that's why they stand above the rest, and that's why they're chosen to be in front of the camera. So that is important. Like, good genes are important. Plus, they're extremely disciplined about their lifestyle. They will work out say 4, 5, 6 days or 7 days in a week. I've come across cases where they had a mole and they didn't want to go to the doctor, so they applied tuna. That tuna onto the mole and burnt a hole in their skin. Also, excessive sugar in your blood, glucose in your blood, it leads to something called as advanced glycation. Like, all that excess glucose binds to your skin proteins and it sort of accelerates the aging of your skin.
Is makeup good on a daily basis?
Makeup is harmless. And it's actually good, especially if you're dealing with pigmentation, because it adds another layer of sun protection. I think the best home remedy is good nutrition.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. And today we've spoken about something which is very important. You know, the first thing that you notice about a person is basically their appearance, their skin, their hair, and these sort of things actually create an image of who you are in a person's mind. In fact, these sort of things are so important in today's day and age that people take extra attention and extra care about grooming themselves and how they need to project themselves to the world. It can also lead to other important factors like you propelling to a completely different level when it comes to work, when it comes to social status, when it comes to seeking the right type of partner that you and I want or somebody else looks at. And that's why in today's podcast, we've spoken to Dr. Rickson Pereira. Rickson, or Ricky is what I call him, about so many of these factors. The factors about skin, the factors about hair, the fascination of Indian people with skin lightening, Botox, fillers, whether they work or they don't work, and a lot of other factors. So this is a longer podcast and a very interesting and informative one. So there will be timestamps which will be provided at the bottom. If there are specific ones that you actually want to see, then just click onto those. Also, if you like our work, then please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And see you in the next one. Hi, Dr. Rickson, and welcome to episode of Expert Talk with Bhavya Desai. Really excited to have you here, of course, and it's also very different for me to call you Dr. Rickson.
You can call me my first name. Thanks for having me.
Right. I hope you're excited because I'm really excited about this conversation because I think, skin, hair, body, all of these things, I think in today's day and age have become such a pivotal part of who you are as an individual that more and more people want to take care of those things.
Yes.
So that's the reason why I'm really excited and stoked about this because there's so much to talk about, there's so much to uncover. So if you have something to say, it'll be great. And after that, we'll immediately just fire on.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that your appearance is what you show to the world. And I think as part of that whole thought process, it's important to pay attention to grooming and, ensure that you put your best forward. Like in other aspects of life, I think it makes a difference. It creates a different energy. And I think that if anybody's consistent and disciplined, I think it gives off a different kind of energy. You attract the kind of people who, with the same energy. I think that's important.
Nice. So, first up, do you see a lot of difference from what it used to be about like 4 or 5 years back, or maybe like say even like a decade back, compared to where we are today in terms of like a lot of men and women both becoming a lot more aware about how their appearance, how their skin, how they should be looking?
Yes. So actually, when I had taken up dermatology as a subject during which was almost, I think, 15 years ago, or longer, I think 18 years ago. In fact, nobody it was not taken, it was not taken very seriously. But there was a lot of, a lot of my juniors had asked me, why are you taking dermatology of all the, you could have gotten other specialities with that rank. But that is the part of the way my personality is. I like maintaining myself, and I think it was natural, and I could see that this is going to come up in the future as a big thing that people will pay attention to. So I think it all started there, and of course, as you can see now it's become a very, I think with the whole social media explosion and presence,
Right.
everybody wants to look their best.
Of course.
I think during the pandemic, when everyone was off, online, and I think people just started paying attention to how they looked on screen. I think that
Right.
that I think triggered a lot of young people into the whole grooming aspect, of which, of course, your skin, hair, and all of that, it plays a lot into your self-confidence.
Yes.
I think the way you perceive yourself, that really matters. So I think that is something that will go on as as a part of globalization. There are trends worldwide where people are focusing on their skin, their overall fitness, body shape. So there's a lot of talk and discussion around that, and of course there are so many technologies that are being developed
Right.
that are centered around that are targeting these concerns. They help So a lot of technologies are being developed. So
Great.
so it has wider repercussions.
Absolutely. So that's something which is nice. The reason is because I actually wanted to break down the conversation into first, like just talking about skin, then we move on to hair, and then technology as well, because there's so much that actually has come. Things have changed in that respect as well. So having said that, is it true like that there are different skin types? Because I think for someone who's a normal individual or a human being, I'm not sure if they know whether there are skin types or anything like that.
So broadly, you can categorize skin into oily skin type.
Okay.
Then you have dry skin, and then you have combination skin, and then you have something called as sensitive skin.
Right.
And I mean, these are loosely terms that we use because every person comes with a different set of skin types, and mostly your skin may feel oily in one season, it may feel dry in another season, it may feel, at a younger age, it may feel oily, but as you get older, it becomes drier. So, of course, variations exist, and I mean, that's the norm. But broadly, in terms of prescribing products, and it also depends on the season. So depending on the skin type that you have, the city you live, the weather, all of those factors play into this. But yeah, broadly four skin types.
Skin
is
types.
that
Okay.
is
But so is it like that under these broader skin terms, is it again different bifurcations for men and women, or generally skin is different for men and women?
Not as much in the sense, of course, men's skin is thicker, it's more oily, and it requires a different set of products. And by nature, men don't like to put too many layers.
Right.
So generally, when we prescribe products to men, we just dial it down and try and keep it multifunctional. Like if one product can achieve multiple things, then we prescribe it to them because you just have to do one application. It's difficult for men to follow too many instructions.
Right.
So we generally keep it simple when it comes to men. Women, of course, women get a lot of FOMO. They feel like they're missing out on so many things and they want to try everything, and that is not always the best thing.
Okay.
Because in this whole information overload that is there, with the number of influencers promoting products every week, you see everyone is so it's very and their products are now available at a lower price point, so they've become affordable. So everyone wants to try out something, and more often than not, that it turns out irritating the skin or something, because sometimes some women just overdo everything.
Right.
So I think men underdo things, a lot of women overdo things. So I think when people come to us, we first analyze their skin and give this based on their lifestyle, skin type, all of those factors come into play. We have a conversation about how their lifestyle is, and then accordingly we prescribe products.
Yeah, this is something that actually I wanted to focus on as well in terms of conversation, but I'll bring it a little later. The reason is because yes, definitely I think there are so many products which are out there, and then again there are different price points, so which means you want to do something and you don't want to. But before that, what do you categorize in general as healthy skin? For someone who's absolutely an absolute novice, someone like me who doesn't understand skin, how would you categorize what is healthy skin?
I think healthy skin would be someone who has blemish-free skin, no spots, marks. It's an even tone. It's normal in appearance, not flaky, not too oily.
Okay.
And reasonably, it does not get too swayed with the change of weather or the ambience, because the skin has it all together. So there is a skin barrier, and if you have a good skin barrier, then your skin doesn't respond too much to small environmental changes. Whereas a person who has sensitive skin, they have a weakened barrier, and they respond to small changes in their environment. Like if they go out on a hot day to play, the sweat can irritate their skin.
Right.
They'll develop rashes easily. All products will not suit them. You apply like say a moisturizer or a toner or something, it will sting their skin. So yeah, normal skin would be, I think, skin that is even toned, blemish free, lesser appearance of pores. I think you have that kind of skin, I think, only in your 20s. I think once we hit our 30s, things change.
Right. But is there a high percentage of people who really have that type of skin? The reason is because, of course, now the times have changed, the environment has changed,
Absolutely.
the stress levels have changed, which means all of these things affect your skin. So do we even have that skin type anymore, or is it?
No, so I think it depends on how many, it depends on, because your skin undergoes variations throughout the year based on your season, your nutrition, sleep levels, stress levels, all of these, whether you're taking supplements, not taking supplements, all of these factors affect your overall health, including the skin.
Right.
And we've seen a lot of, if there are people who have very consistent routines, they generally tend to have calmer and more stable skin. And we see individuals who are very high-strung, type A personality, very active, and their skin constantly undergoes inflammation. And stress and all of that. So I think it has a lot to do with your individual personality also. There's a connection between the skin and the mind, and we've seen generally with patients who are very anxious, high-strung, irritable, they tend to get more issues during treatments. Like their skin doesn't tolerate small things, or even when we do procedures and all, we have to be very gentle with their skin, as opposed to a person who's more calm and centered and has everything together. They generally tend to respond very well, and they don't react too much to products. So a lot of it also has to do with your personality and lifestyle. And what is your what is your state of mind at that very moment?
Right.
Yeah.
But so in that case, then tell me, like, what is, so say for example, for someone who's obviously in a working environment today,
Yes.
Someone who's possibly in their 20s or between their 20s or 30s, they've obviously gotten out of their post-graduation and are working. Now, when they're working in an urban environment, you're exposed to hundreds of things, sunlight, dust, this, that, all of that.
Yes.
What is a good skin regimen or a healthy skin regimen that they need to have?
Yeah. So in order to have healthy skin or good skin, multiple things are important. I would say nutrition, your sleep cycles, how physically active you are, and what kind of physical activity you do, and supplements and products. Okay. So when you ask for a good regimen, a basic regimen would consist of 3 or 4 products. One would be a cleanser to match your skin type. That could be a gel, foam, milk cleanser, something, cream cleanser. So there are many types of cleansers that are available.
Right.
Something to that you can use once or twice in a day, just to keep your skin clean, because there's a lot of build up through the day. And then moisturizer, something, especially people who have sensitive skins, their barrier is, the top layer, the skin barrier is a little weak. So we want something that will sort of reinforce the skin barrier and calm it down.
Okay.
So a moisturizer is something I feel that's important for a bedtime routine. During the day, sunscreens usually have moisturizers, so you don't really need a separate moisturizer for the day. But so a moisturizer at night, and then a sunscreen during the day. So it's a good idea to wear a sunscreen every day, because it's chronic photo damage, or we call chronic sun exposure, because skin never forgets a ray of light. So I think this chronic sun exposure is what leads to slow aging of the skin.
Okay.
Externally. And I think a sunscreen becomes very important in that aspect. So this is something, a basic routine that everyone can follow.
Understand.
And then there's something called as actives, things that stimulate cell renewal. Okay, when we are growing, our skin cells grow at a particular pace, and it slows down with aging, like many other functions, bodily functions. So in order to keep it renewing at its best, you need actives. You have something from the vitamin A family called as retinols. You have gentle acids, fruit acids called as alpha hydroxy acids. You have something called as beta hydroxy acids. So those are things that are
regenerating.
Generally you can use it low doses every day, or maybe a slightly higher strength to a couple of days in a week.
Right.
Those are things that you can add to just keep your skin looking its best.
But are practically a lot of these things even possible? Like, for example, you said application of products like 2 times a day, or cleansing or whatever, I'm sure. But do people really, I mean, unless you're obviously a celebrity and you really have to take care, because that's what you said.
Absolutely.
Is it like, from a general perspective, do people really follow such a good regimen?
Yes. So actually people follow. It's just that you have to put them on the right products, and you have to understand the person as to what their lifestyle is.
Right.
What kind of personality will they be able to follow a complicated regimen, or it's better you give them a simple regimen. The best regimen is something that you can follow easily, and you will stick to it. So, and that's where the whole expertise comes in, because with our experience with products, then we prescribe this set of products for this kind of a person, and then we give it 2 or 3 months, and we see how the person responds, and of course with seasonal changes, because in Bombay, in a city like Bombay, you have humid seasons, dry season, and accordingly the products change.
Right.
And now with climate change and increasing temperatures, again skins are getting more and more irritated with city. We see that when the pollution increases, people develop all kinds of allergies on their lips, under eyes.
Yes.
So accordingly, products change based on what a person presents with.
Right.
But,
so in terms of skin, all right, like for example, you mentioned about sunscreen as well. So do people really use or even look at what the ingredients list is in those sunscreens? I give you a small example of myself, for example. I play a lot of sports, and usually just from my cricketing days, I always apply a thick layer of sunscreen, because obviously you don't want to get damaged, neither do you want to get tanned.
Yes.
For the longest time, I was using a product, and I'd never really researched it, but I was using it because it was a popular product, advertised and branded amazingly well. And then later on, I realized that actually has ingredients which are really not good for your skin. And that was told to me by my wife. And then she told me, look, this is the one that is actually really good. Maybe you should try this. And I started trying that, and that's the one which has really worked wonders.
Right.
So do users really look at those ingredients as well in terms of products? Because there are so many of them which are harmful as well, right, to your skin?
So actually what has happened is, fortunately in India, you get good sunscreen. So with time, the kind of sunscreens that are available in products has evolved. So the ones that were considered unsafe, most of those products are not being used.
Okay.
We have good new age sunscreens in most of our products. So I think that's a good thing. And I mean, mostly see, as doctors, we know ingredients and we generally select this. But for a layperson, I can totally agree that it becomes very difficult. But difficult to get into the ingredients and understand the whole mechanism by which a sunscreen works. But I think a basic guide would be, a rough guide would be looking at SPF of 30 and above. It's better to go for SPF of 50 and above, because we don't really apply it in the quantities that we are supposed to, because because the weather is humid and hot, and, it becomes uncomfortable sometimes. So an SPF of 50 plus is what I would recommend, and you look for that is the protection factor against UVB light. And then you have something called as UVA protection. So you look for a PA rating of triple plus or 4 plus to give good protection against UVA light.
Okay.
And nowadays there are new age sunscreen filters which filter out something called as high energy visible light.
Right.
So the light that we see, UV light is not something that we see.
Yes.
But the visible light that we see, especially blue light from the sun, has been shown to accelerate aging and worsen pigment on the skin. So there are filters for that now. So there are blue light filters. Also, the heat from the sun can cause slow damage to the skin. So you have infrared filters. So it's getting a little more complex. But I think if you're the UVA light does the most damage. If you're dealing with pigmentation, then you would want to maybe in addition to UVA and UVB look for a sunscreen which has a blue light filter.
Right.
Especially if you're in front of devices, if you're on the your tablets or phones or your screens the whole day. Although the blue light coming from those are very the energy is very low, but when we talk about cumulative exposure, what you are like literally, I think most of our average screen times are maybe 5-6 hours. So over a period of time, the cumulative exposure builds up. And that's why I would recommend that you use a sunscreen which has a blue light protection during the day as well. And if the sunscreen doesn't have a blue light, there is something called as tinted sunscreens. You know, they're a little bit like foundation. So they have something called as iron oxide.
Okay.
So iron oxide is an excellent blue light filter. So for a lot of women, a tinted sunscreen works really well because in India, as we age, our skin tone becomes uneven. As we go from puberty to our 20s to our 30s, one of the signs of aging is developing an uneven skin tone.
Okay.
And a tinted sunscreen really works well in blocking away blue light, visible light, and helping you achieve a more brighter and even tone.
Wow.
So a lot of sunscreens are available with tints nowadays. So I think those are very useful if you're trying to protect against tanning, or you're trying to block blue light, or if you're dealing with an uneven skin tone.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone really, say for example, a user really uses sunscreen every day in terms of like following what you're saying, so what is the massive difference in terms of age that it can make in terms of their skin?
Yeah. So I mean, if you see, it could make like almost a 6 to 7 years difference. It depends on I mean, how much have you been out in the sun, and you know how much
On an
care
average,
you've
you
taken.
mean
On an
5-6
average.
years easily?
Yeah, easily.
Okay.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference to the skin quality and texture because fortunately, as Indians, we are generally culturally we shy away from the sun. If you see Caucasians and all, they're more likely to go out in the sun, outgoing, and you really see the signs of sun damage on their skin.
Right.
Culturally, we tend to shy away from the sun. We tend to be indoors, and that also plays an important role in how our skin ages.
Right.
Since we are not generally outdoors.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that also adds to sun protection. And sunscreen is not all of sun protection. In addition, you have to do other sun protection measures. Like wear a cap or a visor, or carry an umbrella. If you're out in the sun for long hours, wear like full sleeve clothing, sun protective clothing, wear a thicker weave. So all of these also go, I mean, those are better barriers against light than sunscreen. But at least all the exposed areas you can apply sunscreen. But I think covering up wherever possible is also a very good measure again in your protection against the sun.
In terms of tan, like actually when you're talking about this clothing and wearing like protecting yourself against the sun, one interesting thing that comes to my mind, different people usually have like a different outcome when they go out in the sun. For example, now when I go out in the sun, I get tanned really fast, maybe 15 minutes, and I can clearly see the change in my complexion. Whereas there are a lot of other people, when they go out there, they will get tanned, but it's not that much, and it's more of like redness and things like that.
Yes.
So is that also different for different people?
Yes. So there are actually 6 skin types based on the ability to tan and the degree of resistance to sunburns.
Right.
So there are 6 skin types. The skin type 1 is the palest and the most likely to get sunburnt and not tan, versus skin type 6, which is dark skin color, which is less likely to, almost not likely to get sunburnt, but tan profusely.
Okay.
So the ultraviolet light in the sun, it damages our DNA. Okay, and the melanin is like an umbrella which protects.
Okay.
Now, when the ultraviolet light damages the DNA, there are repair mechanisms in place to repair that damage and reverse it.
Okay.
And then the body may not require so much of melanin.
Okay.
So everybody's capacity to to repair themselves from sun damage is different. Okay, depends on the ability to get sun burnt will depend on the amount of melanin that is already existing in your skin.
Okay.
And as Indians, we are profuse melanin formers. Okay, anytime you just get a simple scratch on your skin, it'll heal with a mark, and the mark will take some time to go.
Okay.
In a way, it's a good thing when you're out in the sun. If you have a good melanin response, you actually protect your skin against aging and skin cancer.
Right.
So that is something that is actually good. That's why the incidence of skin cancers in Indians is very low. Unless you've been chronically exposed to the sun for years, then there is a small chance. But usually the incidence is very low, and that's because of the melanin. But yeah, there are other situations where it's the person's state of health. If you notice, younger people, they tend to although they tan profusely, the tan will wear off. Whereas someone older, they will tan, but the tan will take a little longer to wear off because the turnover of the skin is slower. Also, as you get really old, like when you're like say in your 70s or 80s, your ability to form melanin reduces. So you'll notice that they won't tan as profusely. So so that will determine how susceptible to sunburn and how much you will tan. And then there are other issues. For example, a lot of people with B12 deficiency, they just tan very easily, and that tan doesn't takes a long time to wear off. So that's one of the signs of B12 deficiency. Unusually tanned skin for minimal sun exposure and which won't go down. There are insulin resistance, which is so common in Indians. That's another situation where you would tan with minimal sun exposure, and that tan will just take weeks to go because insulin is such a profound anabolic hormone. It makes the when there's an excess of it, your skin cells overgrow and the skin starts to look darker.
Right.
So yeah, there are those factors also at play.
Okay. Now, there's something interesting that you mentioned, but in some of these cases now, like home remedies, right? Now everybody talks about so many of these home remedies, like for example, whether it's like say Multani Mitthi.
Right.
Is that really good, and should people really use it?
It's harmless.
Okay.
It won't do any good, but you have like a placebo effect. You feel like it's doing something.
Okay.
But it is harmless. There are home remedies which are harmless, which sometimes we tell people, okay, if you want to indulge in it, go ahead and do it. It's not going to do you any benefit, but it won't harm you either.
Okay.
And there are some home remedies which cause harm, and I've come across cases where they had a mole and they didn't want to go to the doctor, so they applied tuna onto the mole and burnt a hole in their skin. So, or sometimes things like if you have a skin tag, they'll tie a horse hair around it or they'll burn it with an agarbatti. So these are things which will end up causing harm. I mean, it's better to go to because then the problem is if you're left with a permanent scar, that takes much more medical intervention to get rid of. So in the first place, if you just go to a doctor and have it treated, I think that would be wise and in your best interest to do that. So yeah, home remedies, I would say leave all the kitchen ingredients for your dishes. Don't put any on your face.
Right.
And in this day and age, there's really, first of all, they don't work. I think the best home remedy that you can give your skin is good nutrition. That's how I feel. It's in the kitchen. It plays a huge role in the way your skin looks and feels. I think the best home remedy is good nutrition.
Absolutely. That's so. How important would you say is like diet in keeping your skin healthy? You mentioned this earlier as a first point, and nutrition is very important. But say if you were to give percentages to like the factors that you mentioned, where you mentioned diet, sleep, and all of these things, how important percentage would be diet?
I think diet and lifestyle would account for, I would say, at least 80% of how your skin looks and behaves, your skin, hair, because your diet will actually influence the way you feel, the hormones that are secreted, and they play up on your skin. And literally, when we deal with patients, we can look and tell who's been eating well and who hasn't. So it's very, very important.
Right.
I think the amount of junk food that people consume and starchy carbohydrates, and so there's an imbalance between the major food groups. And in general, India, we are a more carb heavy country. Our breakfast, lunch, and dinner tends to be heavy on carbohydrates, and we are already an insulin resistant population.
Right.
And all that excess insulin and easy access to food delivery apps.
Commerce.
Yeah. So we have, I mean, you can get things ordered at the push of a button. Easy access to carbonate, sugar sweetened beverages, fruit juices. I mean, I was just reading an article today in the Times of India, and literally per 100 gram of food item like soft drinks, fruit juices, biscuits, milk, they literally have anywhere between 25 to 35% of sugar.
Yes.
And all that insulin drives metabolic disease as well, and then it reflects onto your skin. So if you're prone to a certain skin condition, there are certain conditions which will be aggravated, out of which most common is acne.
Yes.
Like acne is like, you can tell who's been eating what. If you have severe inflammatory acne and you're showing signs of insulin resistance, you can tell that a person has been eating all the wrong things.
Right.
Dairy is another aggravator of acne, like excessive consumption of dairy will trigger acne. There's a condition called as acanthosis nigricans, where excess insulin will darken certain areas of the body, the face, like the under eye, the outer part of the cheek. A lot of people develop these patterns. You can have darkening around the chin area. You can have darkening on the sides of the neck. People can get skin tags in those areas, outgrowths of skin. The underarm develops a dark velvety appearance. Elbows and knees become dark. The fingers, knuckles of the fingers start to show darkening.
Right.
So this is heavily driven by insulin. So when insulin is floating in excess in your body, it also activates something called as the insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, which is a very potent driver of skin conditions like acne. We've seen that even people who are not paying attention to their nutrition, if they're prone to psoriasis, their psoriasis tends to be worse. It tends to be worse in people who are obese. Those who are dealing with atopic dermatitis and eczemas, they generally, if you see people who are obese, they tend to have just much worse disease symptoms. So I think nutrition plays a very important role in management of skin, and it is it's a very crucial influence on how your skin turns up. If you want blemish-free, bright-looking skin, you have to eat the right things.
It's just so surprising that food plays such an important role, because obviously it's the driver for whatever energy that we want.
Yes.
And then, like, even for example, when we had the podcast with Dr. Rajiv Kovil as well on diabetes, like, he also stressed so much upon how important it is to eat the right things so that you don't get diagnosed with. I think we also had a podcast on postpartum. And in that postpartum, the life coach and nutritionist, Sovidi, she also mentioned that the most important critical factor is actually food, which really derives whether you're going to come back into shape or not. Apart from just exercise. It's just so shocking. This thing that you're talking about darkening. So when you say it's the darkening of the skin, like under the eye, on the sides, is that pigmentation, or pigmentation is different and this is different?
So any variation in color on the skin is called pigmentation. If it's darker, it's called hyperpigmentation. If it's lighter, it's called hypopigmentation. And if there's no color, that is depigmentation. So what a lot of Indians commonly have is something called as pigmentary demarcation lines. So they have dark eyelids, and then that patch will extend onto the cheek as a bat wing. It will come onto the cheek and it will extend to the forehead also. And typically, and some of them have it on the chin also. Typically, what happens is when a person like this is exposed to high insulin, the patches become darker. So insulin actually causes these patches to become darker, excess insulin. So,
but this is not hereditary. It is something which gets developed out of your own lifestyle?
No. So if it, you're more likely to have it if it runs in family. So these are fixed patterns.
Okay.
But in when you have insulin resistance, this will just it'll just heighten and it'll make it more prominent.
Understand.
So we don't. I mean, that's something that we come across, and we tell people that they don't realize that it's from their diet.
Right.
Yeah. So a diet correction and improvement of physical activity really helps.
Yeah, because what you said is also actually something which triggered a conversation or a question in my head. Is that actually, if you notice, then there are a lot of Indians who really have like these challenges in terms of especially darker underarms,
Yes.
knee patches and things like that.
Absolutely.
And all of those things are such important factors, especially, and they can really play a very important role in your self-esteem as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
is it like that it's more common with Indians than what you'd possibly see?
Yeah, so of course it's very common with Indians, and we get, I mean, we do prescribe medications, both applications, oral, to reduce the darkening. So underarm darkening, intimate area darkening is a very common issue. A lot of women come to us for that. Everyone wants to have clean underarms, so
Yes.
they do laser hair removal. And if you're already prone to dark underarms and then you end up waxing, you just worsen the
darker.
problem. But a lot of it also depends on, hormonally, if your nutrition isn't right, then you are prone to
Right.
excess insulin, which darkens the underarms.
Okay.
And a lot of young women have something called as polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yes.
So that is something that they are genetically sort of predisposed to. And when these individuals who are predisposed to, who are prone to, predisposed to PCOS, with poor nutrition, all these symptoms heighten. So it leads to a worsening of all those symptoms. For example, they can have severe acne, very oily scalps, thinning hair, dandruff on the scalp, facial hair growth, body hair growth, irregular periods, and darkening of different areas of the body, like in acanthosis nigricans, neck, underarms. So these are very common issues, and a lot of people don't. Sometimes it's the predisposition to a hormonal thing, but it's a combination of predisposition to hormonal imbalance plus a poor lifestyle, which actually aggravates. And then in the mix, stress is another thing which causes persistent release of adrenal hormones, cortisol and androstenedione, and there are different adrenal hormones, which is a stress response. And those also we find that very commonly they are heightened in young individuals, and that can lead to all sorts of skin and hair issues.
But isn't that because, I mean, that's very interesting what you say, because of course PCOS and PCOD is such a big factor, especially, I mean, when it comes to like today's day and age, because as far as my knowledge goes, I think it'd be about like at least 80% of women today have some sort of PCOS and PCOD sort of a challenge.
Yes.
So, and then, yes, I know that doctors always prescribe, gynacs and everybody always prescribes medications to obviously regularize everything in terms of whether it's your periods, X, Y, Z. But apart from those medications, once you stop, they reoccur or they come back.
Yes.
So is there a way where you can actually eradicate or reduce the impact of those sort of challenges by way of something that you can do, which then naturally looks on your skin as well?
Yes. So actually what happens is people don't come to us telling that they have PCOS.
Of course.
They come with vague symptoms like my skin is just darkening. It's just not looking fresh. It's not looking dull. It's looking uneven. I'm breaking out so much. I have, unusual hair growth somewhere. My cheek looks uneven because of that hair growth.
Right.
So typically they come to us with those symptoms. Okay. Having no clue that there may be some underlying hormonal imbalance, and then finally we investigate because we see clues. We look into the lifestyle, and then we realize, a lot of the times, whatever our suspicion is of a particular hormone being high, those, the reports sort of corroborate that.
Right.
And then of course, then we end up referring them to endocrinologists or hormone specialists. Of course, we at our level, whatever lifestyle change that we can sort of advocate, because we see a lot of the younger Gen Z is just sleeping very late in the night, and they don't follow a particular circadian rhythm. They don't sleep on time, wake up on time. They don't eat the right things. And then there's alcohol, smoking, everything that's added to the mix, plus a lot of the wrong foods. So all of this plays a role in how your skin will look. Also, excessive sugar in your blood, glucose in your blood, it leads to something called as advanced glycation. Like all that excess glucose binds to your skin proteins, and it sort of accelerates the aging of your skin. It also binds to the proteins in your hair root, and it actually, if you're prone to hair thinning or balding, it'll actually accelerate that process. You just lose hair much more earlier than you're supposed to. We see a lot of young guys who have in their teens with hair thinning or early 20s. They had a good head of hair and suddenly they start losing hair very rapidly. So those, I feel that with we are seeing a lot of these conditions which should have happened later on in life. They're coming much early on.
But do you think that in like today's day and age, like all of these, like some of the things that you said, these are like societal pressures which really people put a lot on.
Yes.
And of course, with social media as well, like everybody is like trying to get to that and achieve that great life. Does that happen a lot? A lot of it is also in the mind instead of.
I think it comes from that, right? It comes because a lot of what people portray themselves on social media, if they want people to look at you a certain way, then you would want to achieve that. And if something is falling short, then if it can be treated, people would like to have that treated, because a lot of how you portray yourself on social media or how confident you are, if you feel internally confident and if you feel a certain thing is holding you back, then correcting that thing will actually help, your overall confidence and the confidence with which you can sort of appear, put yourself out there. So those things matter, and also a lot with mate selection and this. If you're looking at proposals, marriages, because I think it can't get more judgmental when it comes to arranged marriages. A lot of people, because it's so superficial there, like you're going purely on the basis of physical appearance, and simple things like dark circles or a crooked nose, or features will can be like a deal breaker.
So the question on self-esteem for me, actually, which I asked, was actually coming from there itself.
Right.
That is it where you notice a lot of people who are doing these things, like who are basically at a marriageable age.
Yes.
They tend to come in with families with a lot of these requests that, can we do this? Can we like lighten up the skin a little bit? Can we have, what do you call, something fixed?
Yeah. Skin lightening, since you brought up skin lightening, it's next level, the craze for skin lightening, and there is so much misinformation out there. It's a good platform, I think, to talk about it, because everyone comes, I want to lighten my skin, can you give me those injections? And actually, it's just a hype. Like, no, the glutathione injections, the compound that is used to supposed to lighten the skin, it actually gives very unpredictable results. You will see, and there are so many, like, you have to be very careful about where you're going and getting the treatment done. First of all, I don't recommend it at all. Like, you cannot lighten your skin considerably with any injections or drips. Like I said, it's a lot to do with your lifestyle and all of that. If you have just bad lifestyle habits, nothing can salvage your skin. Okay, and no matter how many drips you take, so a lot of how your skin looks comes from your lifestyle. And there are antioxidants that you can take,
right?
Because as you're aging, because your natural antioxidants go down, so something to boost. So glutathione is good as a tablet in an oral formulation, but drips are something crazy that I don't recommend. And there are these conditions before a wedding, they want to brighten up. So can you give drips to brighten up? Crazy requests, but of course I don't endorse it, and I don't do it in my practice, because I just feel that if you're not convinced that it's doing anything. And I don't really want to put a patient through IV this, because intravenous, like when you take it orally, there's at least a safety mechanism. Your gut filters out things that you don't require, and so at least there's that safety mechanism. With IVs, you're not giving your body a chance to filter out things. You're directly pumping it into your system. And a lot of, at least now there are pharma companies who are coming up with glutathione preparations. Earlier, a lot of unlicensed preparations were being used, and people can develop all sorts of, they can feel uneasy, they can get shivers during the treatment, they can develop rashes. There have been few reports of very severe drug reactions to these things. So glutathione is something that's produced in the body, but it can be supplemented, and it's safe in an oral form. I don't recommend that for skin lightening, and skin lightening is something that's very crazy. I mean, we have brown skin, and it's good to accept that. And I think what you can look for is a more even skin tone. And there are safe ways to brighten up your skin, and and it should start. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to start making those lifestyle changes and all at least 6 months to a year in advance. And we've seen a lot of people, when they improve their nutrition and all of that, their skin naturally brightens up.
I understand.
So that's where it comes from.
Right. What's the craziest request that you've heard in this respect when it comes to skin lightening?
It's crazy. We get requests all the time. It's not something that people want to. They directly come and ask, I want to take skin lightening injections. They don't have any clue, and they just, because they've heard it off the internet or some hype, and they just come asking for this, and sometimes they want lightening in specific areas, like the intimate areas, genitals, all those like crazy requests they get. And when you sort of examine and ask them their history, and then you realize that, their lifestyle and all is wrong, and they haven't really been paying attention. So it's important to do, so what I try and do is not give in to the hype. Okay. And there's also a feeling of FOMO, like the people feel like they're missing out on something really great, because the hype created on social media is so high that people feel like they've been missing out on something really incredible, which is not the case. Okay, none of these skin lightening injections give any sort of skin lightening, and it's just hype. Some people may have experienced a little bit of brightening, but it's something that could have happened naturally also. So I really don't feel that there's something, but yeah, crazy requests, we get that all the time.
But even the applications of a lot of these moisturizers, or they say creams, okay? I'm not using an example of something like a Fair and Lovely and things like that, of course, which obviously has also now got, the marketing has got banned, or they have had to change it. But it is believed largely by consumers that a lot of the application of some of these creams, moisturizers especially, a lot of the expensive products, they do tend to lighten up the skin a little bit and things like that. Is that?
Yeah, they do lighten in the sense, I would say brighten, because the thing is, see, in our skin, there is a certain rate at which cells grow, shed. There is a certain rate of pigment production.
Okay.
So there is a basal rate of pigment production. This is what you're born with genetically. And then lifestyle factors get added to it. Your sun exposure, your nutrition, sleep, mood, hormones, all of that get added to it. And slowly, when you correct those factors, you see an improvement. And of course, what products are designed to do is improve cell renewal. And at the same time, why do your skin cells produce excess melanin? Is because melanin is actually a free radical scavenger. So only when the skin is in distress, it will produce abnormal amounts of melanin. So what creams and all do is they calm down the color producing cell. And a lot of creams contain antioxidants which reduce the body's, because the problem is when there's an antioxidant deficiency, the skin tries to produce excess melanin because it does the job of an antioxidant.
Right.
But when you provide antioxidants either orally or by application, the requirement for melanin goes down. So your melanin cell also calms down.
Okay.
And like internal factors, like I said, conditions such as, say a person has low thyroid, hypothyroidism. So your brain secretes a lot of this hormone called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. And when that's there in excess amounts in your blood, it stimulates the color producing cells also to produce.
Okay.
So we have to look into medical, if they have noticed that they've become unusually tan, despite not being out in the sun. So we have to look for other reasons also.
I understand.
Creams are very important, I think, as part of a routine to keep your skin, to slow down the aging of your skin, and overall just to improve skin health. A little bit of maintenance usually goes a long way in, and across, I mean, depending on the age, in your teenage and 20s, you would use a different set of products. As you get older, with every decade, the product change. Yeah, the product changes based on what you're trying to achieve.
Understand. Right. So the hair is a very interesting topic, and I want to get to that like as a complete different section in a bit. But from a perspective of say short, what do you call quick turnarounds? Like say for example, now tomorrow, if I have to go for a party, then in order to look and like be my radiant best or have like glowing skin, what is it that you can do in terms of like 2-3 things that can work wonders?
Yeah. So one thing is you must be on a basic skin regimen.
Okay.
That your basic whatever has been prescribed or recommended or something that you're using, like your basic steps of a good cleanser, a moisturizer, sunscreen, all that should be in place with maybe an active 2 to 3 nights in a week.
Right.
And of course, at when you're preparing for a party or event, there are things in the in-clinic procedures that you can do maybe a week before. There are Q-switch lasers which help brighten and even out the skin tone. There are gentle peels that can be done which stimulate cell renewal and they improve the results of your products. There are something called as medi-facials, okay, which are very gentle peels in a facial format for people who like the whole experience of a facial, but they can get benefits out of it, and usually in a medi-facial, a peel is followed by application or infusion of anti-aging actives, skin brightening actives, antioxidants.
Right.
So all of these treatments can be done in the clinic, and of course you have at-home use masks. Like even your dermatologist can recommend those to you. A sheet mask is there. You can have a pack that you can apply, just to decongest your face and just because if you're tired or something, it can sort of pep your give that skin an immediate pick me up.
Okay.
So there are multiple things that can be done.
Ice, like I see so many people who actually before a party, I've seen so many of them, they actually just take ice. And does that help? What is it? It basically increases the blood flow, is that?
It actually tightens in the sense that it causes the muscles and the blood vessel to actually clamp up initially.
Okay.
And that's what provides the tightening and freshening. Your skin looks pale because all your blood vessels have closed up and your muscles sort of contract in response to that stress. So that's why your skin suddenly looks less congested and paler.
Okay.
And but for a lot of individuals, that response of pallor is actually followed by redness. The blood vessels open up, but they open up excessively.
Got it.
And some people like that reddish blush to their cheeks. And a lot of people, it doesn't, I mean, if you have sensitive skin, like a condition called as rosacea, you will actually end up worsening it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, I mean, if you can wash it in cold water, I guess, but not apply ice directly, because that's too much of a shock to the skin. But if you really want to, like if you're sweaty and you just want to freshen up a little bit, and you can just maybe use cold water or cool water instead of dunking your face in ice, because that's too much of a shock. Yeah, but a lot of this trend has come because a lot of film stars do that. They dunk their face in ice for whatever reason, but I really don't recommend that.
Right. It's very interesting you spoke about film stars actually. Is it true that 95-99% of the people who are in that industry today, because they have to look good, right?
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
it's like you sell what you look.
Punishing.
Right? Yeah. So is it true that 90-95% of the people, they have to undergo some sort of a procedure, or they have to go like beyond to look how they do?
Right. So you have to understand, film stars are genetically gifted with better features, and that's why they stand above the rest, and that's why they're chosen to be in front of the camera. So that is important. Like, good genes are important. Plus, they're extremely disciplined about their lifestyle. They will work out, say 4, 5, 6 days or 7 days in a week. They're very disciplined with their nutrition. Like when they prepare for roles, they eat very healthy food. They stay away from processed foods or something. So that is a very important role. But yeah, sometimes as the thing is that you have to realize that the lifestyle is extremely hectic, and that does cause their skin to probably age a little bit. And sometimes small treatments can actually keep it, in place and slow down that whole process. So yeah, a little bit of help with, we do different things, lasers, peels, there are injections. All of these can be done. The way I see it is they're called aesthetic tweakments. We just tweak a certain feature a little bit, or if for example, as you age, if your chin is losing prominence, then you put in a little bit in your product called as a filler in your chin.
Yes.
With women, their lips lose volume because if you lose weight, you lose some of the volume in the lips, so you can refresh that. A lot of people develop hollow under eyes, when their body fat percentage. Typically, if you notice, all the film stars, they try and achieve a very low body fat percentage.
Yes, very important.
Yeah, 15 or less, or even in single digits. But that comes at a cost because your face starts to look gaunt.
Yeah.
And it starts to look a little bit dull. So you can sort of do something called as skin boosters. You can add certain products directly into the skin via injections that will brighten up your skin. You can have your under eye hollows filled with fillers.
Yes.
With a lot of men, as the facial fat reduces, muscles tend to, the facial muscles of facial expression, they start to become very prominent. So a little bit of treatment called as botulinum toxin, Botox, can be done to sort of reduce the prominence of the lines.
Right.
So yeah, small treatments is what we try and do. We don't really, I know that in the media there have been, people, some actresses and all have undergone dramatic and not so good transformations, and they generally tend to take away the limelight, and people think all of this is bad and it's only for celebrities. But actually anybody who wants to have a certain feature, removed or enhanced or reduced, now, the access to these aesthetic treatments has become much better.
Right.
Only film stars don't do it. A lot of people in their, especially in their corporate life and all, they want to look refreshed, and especially when they're dealing with clients, they want to look their best. And I've seen that happen to even women in their mid 60s, late 60s.
Yeah.
A lot of men in their this are paying attention to personal grooming, and they want to look. They don't want to look young necessarily, but they want to look less tired.
Fit.
And yeah, and what you feel on the inside should match what you look on the outside. When you feel energetic, but when you look at yourself in the mirror, if you don't sort of mirror that, it plays a role on your psyche also.
Right.
It affects your confidence.
True, absolutely. In fact, like that's something where, since we're on this topic, there's like so much that I wanted to talk about, because I also definitely have seen such a huge change in terms of like a trend wherein I think in the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen a lot of people, both men and women, they definitely undergo a lot of these procedures like fillers or like
Yes.
what do you call Botox or whatever, skin tightening,
Yes.
and things like that. So is it recommendable even from a general standpoint of view for an individual, or it is always just better to let the skin age the way it is?
I think that depends on how, how good you look when your skin is aging. Okay. Not everybody ages well. And you lose fat in areas that you don't want to lose fat, but you retain or even gain fat in areas where you don't want to gain.
Right.
And that's how aging is, and that's why I say why diet and lifestyle and exercise becomes important, because if you just overall maintain a good metabolism and a good, like a low body fat percentage, you generally end up looking better.
Right.
Because your features, like your bony features, show. If you see actors, all of them, the one common thing, they may not have the best skin sometimes, but all they have is good bony features. Their bone structure is what decides. It's never the skin quality, it's the bone structure and the features that decide whether you're going to be a model or an actor, or this person is more attractive. So that basics are important, because if you are disciplined in that sense, you will age much better. Whereas There are people who, probably for whatever reasons in their personal life and personal situation weren't able to take care of themselves, and they sort of let themselves go. And then, at some point in time, they're motivated to get better. And especially then when they do undergo drastic weight loss or this, it does show up on their face. Those are the people that you can do treatment just to make them look better. So everyone doesn't age the same way, and also, as I said, lifestyle matters. How well you sleep and alcohol, smoking, all of these play a role in life. So everybody doesn't age the same. The people who are consistent with generally everything in their life generally tend to have better skins, and they age slower compared to people who are not, particular about that. Your priorities in life also, if this is a priority for you, you will take the additional this to maintain yourself. If it's not a priority, you will just let yourself go.
Is there a minimum number of hours that you actually, like, when you're saying some of these things, there are so many things which are coming in my head, and I'm like trying to understand that which side the conversation should I take, because there's so many questions which are popping in. Now you spoke about sleep. Is there a minimum number of hours of sleep that is required for you to like really have good healthy skin, or is it just important that you, even if you get like those 4 hours of sleep and it is deep REM sleep, and if you just wake up refreshed, it'll still be good?
See, for every person, the sleep requirements are different. It's a very individual thing. However, on an average, I think 7 to 8 hours of sleep, at least 6 hours, 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep per night is good. It will, again, sleep is very important for your body to recover, including all your functions. In fact, you will notice that if you get up at after 4 hours of sleep, you'll notice your skin will look more dehydrated in the night, versus when after you've woken up after 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep, because the overall skin hydration and all changes with through the sleep. And when you wake up refreshed, you're more when you wake up after 7 to 7.5 hours, you're more hydrated and refreshed, as opposed to when you wake up earlier at 4 hours. For sometimes, if we've seen that people who have been chronically sleep deprived, their skin is just very irritable and they will just not respond.
Right.
So respond to treatments also. So I think sleep plays a very important role. It is something, largely it's better to pay attention, and whenever it's possible, try and get your quota of sleep. I understand it's not always possible because of work or whatever personal life related issues, but it should just be a phase, and largely you should get back to sleeping for about 7 to 7.5 hours.
Coming back to this conversation about fillers and of course like any of the cosmetic changes that you make, what's your take on a lot of these homeopaths, a lot of these clinics these days who actually perform a lot of these procedures without having any certification? Because this is one of those areas or industries where a wellness clinic can also actually do.
Absolutely. So it's actually an unregulated zone. The thing is, I would say it's not illegal, so it can be done. Anyone who's in India, anyone who's MBBS and above can venture into cosmetic, aesthetic medicine or cosmetic medicine or dermatology. As far as homeopaths, Ayurveds are concerned, I don't think it's illegal for them to use it. There's no clear-cut definition of who can do these things, who cannot do these things. But at least I can tell you that in dermatology, it's part of the curriculum. Like it's doing lasers, doing injectables. All of that is part of the medical curriculum, even with plastic surgeons.
Right.
So this is all part of the medical curriculum. A person in Ayurvedic or homeopathy, they don't have the training for, it's not a part of their curriculum. So, I mean, I don't want to directly sort of come off as someone who's, but to oppose it directly, I would just say the consumer or the client, people should be more aware as to who they want to go to. Because what happens is, especially in a city like Mumbai, it's a very price sensitive market. People don't go for quality, and they'll just do things just because it's available at a cheaper rate sometimes, and that doesn't end up well. So I feel like you should do a background check on your doctor, look at the certifications and this, and then go to someone who is qualified to do the job. So I think, and especially when it comes to things like injectables, it's such a personal thing, in the sense that every doctor's vision is different. So you would also want to go to someone who's a little bit experienced and, or maybe if, someone has recommended them to you.
Right.
Word of mouth is a very good way of, going to a doctor for certain things. Like with a lot of things can go wrong with injectable treatments, and if the chances of that is extremely low or next to zero in trained hands.
Right.
And even if something inadvertently goes wrong, you should be able to correct it. You should have the sort of expertise to deal with it.
Right.
Which a lot of the times it doesn't happen. In fact, I've seen people burning their faces at parlors when they had done a peel at the parlor, not knowing a person's skin type. And they directly applied a peel and the full face got burnt. So we have such people coming to us because they decided to do a treatment at the parlor and
Right.
things can go horribly wrong.
But in this case, are any of these treatments that you're talking about, like fillers, Botox, and XYZ, are they like something which tends to get a little addictive over a period of time? It's a very general, basic sort of a question.
Yes.
The reason is because if it's something which is going to enhance the way you look,
Yes.
let's be honest, it's going to be something which will give you a great.
So there is a very fine line when it comes to achieving great aesthetic results.
Okay.
There are certain key areas of the face where adding a filler will help. But one thing you have to understand is there's a very fine line, and everybody responds to fillers very differently. What you see when you inject will actually change, because once the filler is injected into your face, it'll absorb water, it'll swell. It takes 2 weeks for that, all of 2 weeks for that swelling to actually entirely go away. And so your face changes. And so what I recommend people is do like 1 syringe per area in a session, see how it goes. You have to build these results up. And with the problem is sometimes with people who have very hectic schedule or celebs, they don't have the time for a downtime, for repeated downtime. They actually end up over injecting and putting so much product at one go because they don't have the time or the patience to do it in multiple sessions. And then you have blown up faces, pillow faces, odd looking faces on screen. And sometimes, a lot of the times, results also depend on the aesthetic sensibilities of the doctor. Like if they, perceive faces a certain way, they will sort of design and do faces a certain way. And you will see all the people who have gone to the same doctor, they'll all start looking similar. So it's very important to use them judiciously. They're a tool. Like any medication, the difference between medicine and poison is the dose. So it's the same thing with these. They are medical grade devices. They are tools to enhance an appearance, but it can go horribly wrong if you're not patient and sort of judicious with it. And what happens is, for a lot of people who have overfilled faces, they've forgotten what they originally look like. And when you over inject, your skin stretches, and when that product starts to break down as you age, your skin starts to sag. So there is when you stretch the skin to a point, there is an elastic recoil. The skin can still recoil and tighten, but you stretch the skin beyond its limit, it will just sag. So even when it shrinks, it will sag, and that's where the problem starts. So if you don't overstretch your skin in the first place, it will recoil. As the filler ages, your skin will tighten back. But if you overdo fillers, then your skin stretches to a point where once the filler starts to reduce, it will only sag.
Understand.
Yeah, and so those things need to be understood. And there are a variety of fillers. Like you can put fillers to enhance your bony features. You can do fillers to do under eye hollows or fill out certain areas like the temples or the lips or the cheeks, or contour the chin. So those are one set of fillers. So there are different grades, thicknesses, so that the selection of the filler and the area is very, very important. The technique, how you deposit the filler, is very, very crucial. There are fillers called as skin boosters, which are just meant to enhance skin quality. That they contain the same ingredients but a different viscosity or thickness.
Got it.
So, so they can be used to enhance skin quality also.
I understand.
So there are a lot of variations and complexities to this, and I feel like a lot of what you see, good results is something that you can't tell. You know, someone who's done it nicely and they're aging gracefully, you will not be able to pinpoint. It's
Understand.
always the ones that are overdone or wrongly done that you can pick up. Or maybe if someone's going through the downtime, like, you know, if you've injected your lips and you just show up the very next day at a shoot or something, you will obviously look very swollen. You have to give these treatments some time for it to settle.
I understand. So it's very interesting what you say. You know, a lot of these fillers and a lot of these products or injectables, as you're saying, which people use, at what stage or age do you see people using them? Is it only when people are crossing like a particular age or maybe 40s, 50s, when probably they need it? Or you're seeing that with a lot of the younger people as well? Do they also do this?
Yeah. So if you are unsatisfied with the feature which can be fixed with injectables, 18 is the age to start. Like if you have very hollow under eyes, then you can do under eye fillers. Or some young people, they have like a lot of women do have square jawlines, and if you want to sort of slim down the face or make give it a more oval or angular look,
Right.
you can do botulinum toxin in the masseter muscle.
Understand.
We use injectables even for things like underarm sweating.
Right.
You know, we use botulinum toxin in the underarms. It for people who have large sweat stains on their clothes, like they generally tend to have this anxious personality, and then that worsens the sweating, and the sweating worsens the anxiety. So it gets them out of that whole cycle, and the results last for 6 months.
Right.
So there are conditions where we treat at younger ages.
Right.
Typically, and the thing is, things like to maintain skin quality, these boosters, they can be started at a younger age, maybe late
Is that out
20s.
of choice or is it out of, I mean, in these
Yeah.
cases, of course, it is because
Yeah.
they need it
Yeah.
out of what you call some
Yeah.
condition that they might have.
Right.
But I'm saying out of choice, do people also use it at like younger ages these days?
Yeah, so it actually has to do a lot with self-esteem or their job requirements, because some people just feel, for example, if a girl feels that I would just feel more confident or better if my lips looked a little fuller, because you know I'm born with thin lips, and you know a lot of the times you know when they smile, they you know their gums show. So we do a little lip filler to hide that gum show, or do a little bit of botulinum toxin to sort of cover the gum show, and that just that small change makes such a huge difference to the self-confidence. It's something else. Like when sweat stains go, like people no longer sweat abnormally. It just makes them so comfortable, and there's a whole level of confidence. If a person is not looking tired, you know, sometimes I've had people who have come to me for under eye fillers because their friends constantly to call them Chelsea, because you have like you know drug addict under eyes, dark. So you know, although people joke, but then you know they do take it personally.
It plays on the mind.
Plays on your mind.
Yeah.
So these are the situations where injectables can help, and they actually make a huge difference in the person's to a person's self-esteem and overall appearance, and that sets a chain of positive things in their life. So it can come from as simple as changing a certain feature. Some people, they have like a hawk nose, and you can do like a non-surgical treatment that place a filler in certain areas to make the nose appear more straighter, or if the tip is drooping a little, you can add a little filler and just lift it up.
Got it.
You know, so aesthetic treatment, small things,
Right.
which make a huge difference. And
Now, I want to talk about makeup a little bit. You know,
Yes.
it is so different in different what do you call countries, right? For example, like if you see abroad, they apply a thick layer of makeup even in a daily course of life, because most of the people that you meet, they've already have a lot of foundation and
Right.
XYZ. As compared to that, do you see a lot of Indians also moving in that direction? Or let's just start with, is makeup good on a daily basis?
makeup is harmless,
Okay.
and it's actually good, especially if you're dealing with pigmentation, because it adds another layer of sun protection.
Okay.
But a lot of it depends on the lifestyle. Like if you are someone who's traveling in the using public transport in the humidity of Mumbai, none of your makeup will not stay. It'll just bleed. So generally, it depends on your lifestyle. The ones who have to be outdoors and they have to sweat it out, they obviously don't wear makeup. So that's where it comes from. They usually tend to use less makeup. So in India, definitely the use of makeup is much lesser compared to Western countries, because a lot of it also has to do with our weather. And I think culturally also, a fully made up face is not looked upon as, you feel like if you're fully done up, you are looked at a certain way. But of course, if your job demands it, or you're working in an air-conditioned setup where your makeup will stay, then of course people use makeup. And makeup can actually, I'm sure there are countless internet videos, and you can see the kind of transformation that makeup can make. It can really highlight certain features or camouflage certain features, and it goes a long way in improving self-confidence. Nowadays, we have men doing makeup. So it's something that is, I feel makeup is harmless, and I mean, if it suits your purpose of for whatever you're doing it, I think it's okay. I mean, there's no harm in using it.
So there's a interesting thought that comes to my mind. Like, as you're saying that makeup is something which is kind of used like over a period of time, depending on what you do. Do you see a lot of exposure? Like, for example, I'm just thinking there's a lot of exposure of a lot of the current generation, the generation Y, Z, and they nowadays start using makeup as early as like 10, 12, 15 even.
Right.
So that, the parents tend to get concerned.
Right.
Okay, is this the age to actually do it?
Right.
Does that really also happen? Is it good to use it as early as this as well?
I mean, there is no harm in using it. There is, there are at least medical grade products. You get BB creams or beauty balms, as they are called.
Okay.
So what they do is, if anybody has acne prone skin, you could use it safely to cover up blemishes and this. So there are medical grade products available which are minimal on the amount of fragrances and this. So whereas over the counter makeup products have fragrances in them. Maybe they use certain preservatives, and we really don't know to what extent, when they get absorbed into the body, what kind of effects they have. There's something called as endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs. So, for example, certain sunscreens were thought to have endocrine disrupting. Your detergents have it.
Okay.
So there are many compounds that we use in our day-to-day life. Then there's a constant, change in their, status as endocrine disrupting chemicals. So that's why, in general, if you have to apply makeup on a small area, I don't think it can really harm anyone.
Okay.
But you have to be careful about, I think, up till the age of 18, at least when you're till you're adult, grown up enough.
Right.
I feel the minimal exposure to, chemicals it's better if it's avoided. You can use, like I said, things like BB creams, medical grade. They contain mineral oxides which are completely inert and very safe to use on the skin. So sometimes, and we don't even use it for vanity reasons. Sometimes some kids may have an accident or a mark or a scar which they feel comfortable not showing it, then they can sort of conceal it.
Right.
Or something. So those that you can do, and they are quite safe to use. But I don't think endorsing makeup from a scientific point of view, it's harmless. But I think, I don't know, I feel like it's something that if it started later on in life, it's better. Because,
Okay. Let's talk about hair, right? Because that's such an important factor, I think, both for men as well as women.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As basic as, in today's urban environment, what really affects the hair quality that you have, both in men and women?
Right. Your hair obviously depends on your genes, what genetic, again, lifestyle, nutrition, all those impact hair. Then it depends on your how much weathering your hair has been exposed to. if you're constantly heat styling or something, then it can affect, eventually it can affect the texture of the hair.
Okay.
Then depending on hair coloring, any cosmetic procedures on your hair, all of that matters. Yeah, so but like I said, nutrition plays, in fact, the thing is in fact, in the last few years, since COVID has come, every time you get anytime you get any illness, say malaria, dengue, typhoid, COVID, influenza, all of these will trigger hair fall after 2 months. So typically, third month after an illness, and typically we've seen that with COVID, even if the COVID is mild, after like clockwork, from the third month, there will be massive shedding of hair. So it depends on your whole, there's a genetically endowed thing, then there is your lifestyle and whatever acute stresses you've been exposed to.
Right.
Whether it's illness or weight loss. Weight loss is very common. We've seen typically 3 to 4 kgs of weight loss triggers sudden shedding after 2 or 3 months. A lot of people who are getting into their weight loss journey, typically in the third or fourth month, they start developing hair fall, and and anybody who's prone to hair thinning or balding, it'll manifest. It'll show up, because the thing is that the hair sheds at once, but all of it doesn't grow back.
Right.
So you're left with a deficit. So definitely, it's one of the most important reasons why men come to for consultation. That is their hair problems. They're not so bothered about their skin, but hair is something that really upsets them.
Right. So, but what is the general, whatever, say for example, a regimen that you can follow? Just to, like, for some women have scanty hair, some because of which there's a thinning and then there's hair fall.
Right.
Of course, men also do tend to have those things.
Right.
And in today's environment, then what is it that you actually do to ensure that it stays healthy?
Yeah. So it's a combination of internal and external factors.
Okay.
One thing is lifestyle should be good. Your nutrition, should be good. You have to incorporate a lot of protein in your diet. That is something that is neglected in Indian diets. Whatever sources, based on your lifestyle, plant-based, animal-based, things like omega-3 fatty acids, plant-based or fish oil based. Your basic levels of certain vitamins should be good, like your iron, hemoglobin, B12, vitamin D. So these basic numbers need to be in a good range so that your hair can grow at its best potential. If your nutrition is not good, then it will not transform into good hair. And then, of course, as basic care is concerned, I think for men it's a good idea, if their scalp is oily, to shampoo daily or at least every alternate day. Women tend to have lesser oily scalp, so they can shampoo maybe every alternate day or maybe every fourth day, depending on the time of the year, the local weather, climate, all of that, those factors, whether you have an oily scalp or not.
Right.
A lot of oiliness of the scalp is tied down to diet. Like if there's like in a person who has very oily scalp, typically we see that if they're indulging too much in sugar and dairy products, it can overactivate the oil glands and make it oily and prone to dandruff or seborrheic dermatitis.
Right.
So they can use an anti-dandruff shampoo in addition. A lot of girls with hormonal imbalances have very oily hair and flaky scalps. Again, they can shampoo more frequently, use an anti-dandruff shampoo. There are, and of course, those who have started to develop, hair loss following any viral infection or an illness or weight loss, it's usually self-limiting. So the hair will start shedding in the third month, and typically it will shed for a month or two, and then it will start to grow back, provided that acute stress has already come and gone. But if it's chronic stress, where you're constantly stressed out for whatever reasons, and you're on a constant weight loss, or you're falling ill back to back, then there is something called as chronic telogen effect, where you're constantly losing hair. And then it also depends on the results of, whether your hair will grow back or not. It depends on your overall health status, your age. Generally, people who are younger, their hair recovers better as compared to someone in their 40s or 50s. A lot of women develop hair thinning during menopause, and after that, there's a rapid decline in the density of the hair, the quality of the hair. It becomes more wavy, it becomes more sparse, frizzy. So there are multiple factors at play, and there are solutions and that you can use in order to stimulate the hair to grow back. At the same time, maintaining good nutrition, supplements, all of those are important for you to get best results out of your routine.
But is hair oil, is it important? Like, for example, they always say, right, from the longest point of time that look, apply oil to your hair, apply oil to your hair, it'll like reduce the grayness over a period of time. It'll just give a healthy scalp, great hair growth, and things like that. Is that true?
So oil is actually a good conditioner. So if you have long hair, it'll help condition your hair. Okay. So and especially if a person has a dandruff and oily scalp, it's better to avoid applying oil on the scalp. Or so the best thing is to just oil the length of the hair and shampoo it out after an hour or two. Okay. Sometimes if you apply oil on the scalp, you can cause breakouts along the hairline. Your dandruff can worsen. And sometimes people apply so much oil that they need 2 or 3 shampoos to wash it off, and that irritates the scalp. So generally oil the length of the hair and shampoo it out in 1 or 2 washes. Now these a certain section of oil, Ayurvedic oils, the oil is actually a carrier to get some botanical extracts across. So and those the indications can be like the indications can be varied. Like it can be to stop hair fall or to sort of slow down the graying of hair. I mean, I have seen anecdotal reports where some patient has come and told me I started using this oil and all my hair turned black again, but nothing has been conclusively proven. Like, the whole point is you have to replicate that in multiple people. Just one person getting a one-off result doesn't count as something. So, but yeah, you get a lot of these oils which have a lot of botanical extracts which claim to reduce hair fall or reduce graying. But overall, I would recommend oiling only the length of the hair, shampoo it out in an hour or two. I mean, in India, it's a habit to oil the hair, but hair that is long needs oiling. So anything above 1 to 2 inches length could benefit from oiling. It can improve the quality of hair, especially hair that is over-processed, colored. It can improve the texture, simple thing like coconut oil. But there is no need for anyone. It's like a traditional thing, and the older generation, their heart breaks when you tell them that you should not oil. In fact, if you have a sensitive scalp and you're doing very aggressive massaging and it can actually irritate the hair follicles and trigger hair fall. So yeah, there are people who have sensitive scalps, and it's best avoided.
Hair fall, it's such an interesting thing, like especially when it comes to men. So when it comes to men, when you start losing your hair and when you start balding, for some reason suddenly they start feeling that, okay, you know what, it's going to have a severe impact on the other factors in life, like finding a potential partner, like finding a good whatever future and things like that. Do you see that a lot where like people come in with these sort of concerns today?
Absolutely. I mean, that of course, with the younger, you don't want to start looking bald in your 20s at least.
But what's the harm in that? Like, isn't it societal?
I think if hair was a part of their, a lot of their, like a part of their personality, they feel like it's changing, or they're aging, and if you were seen as someone who had good hair, and if and you were constantly complimented for your good hair, and suddenly your hair is falling, it sort of raises they get alarmed. Sometimes hair can be a sort of indicator of your overall health and nutrition, and that can disturb them. Sometimes they want to know, why am I getting so much hair fall? Is this something wrong in my lifestyle? So it plays a very important role in the way you perceive yourself, and if that is changing, I mean, it has to do with what a person, how they see themselves and what they're comfortable with. And of course, if somebody remarks, I mean, it can stay with them for good, and they come immediately seeking treatment. A lot of the times, we have, married couples, the wife wants the husband to do something about the hair loss. So that happens. I've had children getting their dads and, do something for his hair. So something like that, those, you never know where it, can affect you. And having a good head of hair is an expression of good genes, that you seem well turned out. I think, at least in India, it's that way. And I mean, but I would say that if you have a good head of hair, that's great, but never be half bald, either shave, if you've gone bald to such an extent that even medical treatment or surgical will not be able to give you enough hair, I think it's a good idea to just shave it all. I think a half bald person just makes you look a lot older.
Absolutely.
I think there are, bald men who look absolutely
Smart, yeah.
smart and good personalities. I think
Yes.
it plays an overall, I think overall, what is now with the whole social media and all, everybody's trying to groom themselves and they're trying to become fitter. I think if you are overall fit and then you're bald, you can still pull off that that look.
Understand, right? So, I mean, balding is something which you see from a lot of men's perspective as well, but is hair transplant good? Because I've noticed that certain thought of people, they do hair transplants, and then I've had friends who've actually done this.
Yes.
They've had hair transplants and then they've realized it's not really worked from them, and then they've either gone back to some other form or they've gone bald completely.
Right. So before getting into hair transplant, you have to understand basics of management of pattern hair loss. Okay, alopecia,
Okay.
balding, as we call it. It requires lifelong management. It's in your genes. You cannot change that. So you're prone to balding, and then you require lifelong medication in order to grow back your hair. So typically, after we start medicines, the hair loss stops in about 2 months, and then the hair begins to grow back from the 3rd or 4th month onwards, and then it continues to pick up. It hits a plateau in about a year, year and a half, 2 years, and then you maintain that hair with medications all your life.
Okay.
So that is the fundamental, that's the backbone of treatment.
Okay.
Now, for example, if a person has come to us a little late in life, where they've already receded significantly and those roots have miniaturized, even after medical therapy, the hair doesn't grow back. And that's when you do hair transplants. Even when you do hair transplant, before that, you have to start medical management. Okay, so that all your non-transplanted hairs need to grow well. Other areas of the scalp, the hair needs to grow well. Even if you're considering hair transplant, your donor area needs to get stronger roots so that you can get healthy hair for the transplant purpose. So hair transplant is not a substitute for medical management in balding. You have to understand that you will start medical management, and after areas where the hair cannot grow, you would do a hair transplant and continue medical management.
Okay.
Now, what happens is, in reality, what happens is, a lot of people don't follow the medications that were given, and they don't realize, they think that doing a hair transplant is the end all of balding treatment. But the thing is that after doing a hair transplant in a few years, one thing is the non-transplanted hairs fall out,
Right.
because they were going to go anyway. And then even the transplanted hairs, there's something about the balding scalp, those hair also miniaturize over a long period of time. So even after you do a hair transplant, medical management has to be followed before and after a hair transplant, and it has to be continued for life in order to have a good volume. Because see, the top of the scalp contains about 40,000 hair follicles, and in a hair transplant you can give 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, at the most 8,000
Wow. Okay.
life number of grafts, because then there won't be any more left. So 8,000 hair cannot, and assuming that every single hair graft is picked up and there are no failure rates, still 8,000 hair cannot compensate for 40,000, and you can't do it like nature, because no matter, even the best hair transplants, people can sense that something is off about the hairline. So my advice is, as soon as possible, get your balding treated. Go to a dermatologist first. A lot of people don't know that alopecia or hair loss is actually treated by dermatologists. There's no trichologist. You have to go to an MD or a university dermatologist with a DNB degree, MD or DNB, and then they start medical management. If they feel that they need to do, a lot of dermatologists do hair transplants, or they refer to plastic surgeons to do hair transplants. That can be added. But we see a lot of situations where some of these chain clinics for vested interests, they directly jump onto a hair transplant without starting proper medical management. And a lot of them are patient-related factors where patients don't follow through with the treatment, even though they've been recommended that.
Right.
And that's where all the problems start. You get unsatisfactory results. If they don't do medical management, even their non-transplanted hairs fall out. So medical management is very important, and you have to understand that it's areas where you cannot grow hair, that's where you do a hair transplant.
Right.
Okay, and that too in the frontal hairline, because that's your line of vision. So person can be seen like you see your
Right.
hair from the front. So that's where you actually want your hair. The mid scalp and the
Right.
vertex area is a rapidly expanding area. So doing hair transplant there is you will not be able to have that density that is required. So it's futile. So you can do a hair transplant in a very limited area, and that is after starting medical management.
Right. So meaning like it's like as early as you detect it, immediately go to a dermat.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the later you go, the
Yes.
more challenging or more difficult it's going to be to treat it.
Absolutely.
Understand. What are the other forms like vis-a-vis? I know that of course transplant is one aspect. Then there are these other forms which are also there, which people have adopted. I know, as I mentioned earlier, I know friends who've adopted transplants and they've not worked. And then they move to like more of like the hair weaving or like wearing a wig. But these days, I think the technology is also advanced so much that it really looks natural, right?
Correct. So yeah, you can wear camouflage techniques like hair pieces. You can do hair weaving. The only thing is you have to do constant maintenance, and sometimes you stick those things onto your scalp, and there have been few cases where patients develop allergy to that glue.
Itching
It becomes a little difficult. Those are cumbersome to maintain. And a lot of patients, there's a whole fear of taking medical management because they've been told that there are side effects and your libido will go down, you'll get erectile dysfunction, or it will affect your sperm count. All of that there's a lot of this misinformation related. So people have to understand that side effects are seen in a few percentage of patients who take them. Literally it can range anywhere between 1% to 5% depending on what medicine is used. Otherwise, if every person would have experienced a side effect, every person who takes the medicine would have developed side effects, that medicine wouldn't be on the market. So because of this misinformation, people tend to get scared. They'll take opinions from doctors, they'll take the medicine, but they'll not follow through.
Okay.
And then they'll come a few years later, or a lot of the times people go to unqualified doctors. There are quacks from different specialities who will tell, oh, medicines have side effects, you come to us and we will do it. And what happens is they are not treated correctly. In that span of 3 to 4 years, people lose a lot more hair, and then they are gently nudged towards taking a hair transplant because whatever financial interest, and they keep holding onto that patient, and they constantly tell them, do another hair transplant now, do another hair transplant to increase the density. And this whole time, if the patient would have the person would have just come in the initial stages, we could have salvaged all the hair. So in India, there is a whole lack of regulation as to who can treat this, and a lot of people fall prey to misinformation, fear mongering, and they don't end up at the right channel. And the whole problem is they end up with a lot of disappointment later. Because at that stage, if you wasted your time for 4 to 5 years, you could have salvaged a lot of your hair or prevented it from thinning.
Understand.
And side effects are more common in older individuals. Typically, men who have in their 20s, 30s, 40s typically don't experience any of the side effects that are seen with anti-balding medications.
Right.
It's all dose dependent and individual dependent, and mostly there are no issues. People get great results with hair.
Right. Now, factors where like women do a lot of these coloring, hair colors and stuff, and of course it's like great because it looks visually beautiful.
Yes.
But is that really advisable for having good healthy hair?
I think you have to see in terms of you have all the information and then make a personal decision for yourself.
Okay.
At least with hair coloring, the problem is that it dries out the hair. It damages the outer layer, the cuticle, and it dries out the hair. So definitely you will notice a change in texture. And then you have to follow it with the right shampoos, conditioners, leave-in conditioners, products to prevent the color from washing out, to hold the integrity of the hair shaft.
Right.
So that care should be meticulous. And then there are things like, for you use smoothing processes to reduce frizziness in the hair. Those also, if you kind of have the hair type which requires constant heat styling, then instead of that cumulative damage, then we would recommend that you do like a hair smoothing treatment once in 6 to 8 months, so that you constantly don't heat style your hair. So it's the lesser of the two evil. A lot of people want to experience a change in texture, and they go in for this smoothing treatment because they're bored of a certain look. But yeah, they can also in some people with sensitive scalps, sometimes the procedure can be so aggressively done.
Right.
You can actually trigger hair fall after 2 or 3 months. So those are some of the side effects. And sometimes if you go with like a drastic color change, like if you want to go from say dark to like platinum blonde or something, then a lot of bleaching is required, and harsh bleaches can irritate the scalp, can trigger hair fall. So I think just basic global coloring or some highlighting will not really cause hair fall. It will make your hair drier. But very drastic hair color changes come with the risk of scalp burns, hair follicle, follicle drop. So you have to get it done by a person who's very experienced and who's known to be able to pull it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, laser hair removal is something which
Yes.
has been adopted more and more in recent times.
Absolutely.
A lot of people do it. And what is the concept behind that? Is it like it reduces the level of hair growth, or it actually eradicates it completely?
Right. So laser hair reduction, as it's called, it basically works on the principle that it targets pigment, and the concentration of melanin in the hair follicle is much more, many 100 times over as compared to the surrounding skin.
Okay.
So that process, it selectively heats up the hair follicle and kills the follicular cells as well as stem cells around it, and that's how you get hair reduction. Okay. Now, so the thicker the hair, more the melanin, the better the result, more dramatic the results. So in fact, finer hair or lighter hair are more resistant to laser. So, and that happens over a period of time. And hairs that are actively growing are more sensitive to the laser as compared to hairs which are in their later stage of growth or they're resting.
Right.
So all those factors come into play. That's why in one session because in humans, all the hair are at different stages in their growth phase. So all of them don't respond similarly.
Right.
That's why you need 6 to 8 sessions minimum on any area to drastically reduce the hair. It's a reduction. What happens is the thicker hair shafts or hairs are eliminated and they're replaced with very fine hair. It's not possible to get rid of all the hair.
Right.
And it depends then on your overall constitution, and there are people whose hair are extremely sensitive to laser and they get great results.
Right.
And there are girls with hormonal issues where there's an excess level of male hormone, and there the hair can become resistant, especially on the face. Like facial hair is very hormonally sensitive. So we do investigate for any hormonal issues if the hair is not responding well.
Right.
But laser technology is good, and especially it's a boon for people who get side effects out of traditional methods of hair removal, like waxing or shaving. They're prone to razor bumps or wax burns, or they get acne-like eruptions.
Right.
So there, laser becomes very useful. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And typically, the results are long-lasting. But after you finish your 6 to 8 to 10 sessions to 12 sessions, certain areas require more sessions. Then you have to do maintenance once in a year or once in a couple of years, because some hair can grow out, and you can target them. When it comes to men, unwanted hair removal, men's hairs are generally a little more resistant. Like you can have regrowth because testosterone makes the hair grow back. So men typically, complete hair reduction is not possible. But yeah, again, the hair can reduce drastically. It can become a lot finer. In absolute numbers, it doesn't reduce to the extent that it reduces in women.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And men, the chance of regrowth are also higher based on the hormonal and genetic, status, and accordingly, the number of sessions that would require would vary based on an individual's susceptibility to getting good results with laser, as well as age. The higher the age, the better the result. Younger people, hair tends to be more resistant because they have more hormones to stimulate hair growth. Yeah.
But what are the most common areas that men tend to use like laser hair reduction for?
So very commonly back. Hairy backs are something that is not appreciated. Also the arm, if they have hairy over this area, then that's one area that we do hair reduction. There are sometimes we do laser hair removal in men for medical reasons. There's a condition called as pilonidal sinus, which can appear around the tailbone, like it's a painful pus filled sinus that can form.
Okay.
So we do, and that's because of a foreign body reaction to hair follicles. So we actually do laser hair removal for medical reasons.
Right.
Some men have this condition called hidradenitis suppurativa, where painful boils can appear on the pubic area, underarms. So one of the treatments of one of the recommended treatments for this condition is actually laser hair reduction. So once the coarse hairs are sort of eliminated, they get a lot of relief from this condition. But typically men do backs, sometimes even the chest, just for a reduction. But generally back, the aim is to get rid of most hair. Earlobes is another area where men do, like, after a certain age, everyone sprouts hair on their ears, and those can be reduced. Beard shaping is very common. A lot of men have very high beard lines, and they would want to sort of shape it a little better. That's a very good, that's a very good area where you can get very good results.
Right. Shaving of hair, like on legs and arms and things like that. Now, is that something that people really do, and is there like no harm to it? Because I think traditionally people always believe that for men or women, whoever, of course, shaving is something which is always considered for more of a beard.
Right.
But then I know a lot of people, women as well, who actually shave their legs, like abroad as well, if you see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So shaving is harmless. It's just that you have to do it rightly, and it depends on your skin sensitivity also.
Okay.
Not everyone takes very well to shaving, and you have to do it right. Like, wet your skin. On damp skin, apply a good shaving gel or foam, and then do it right. Go in the direction or perpendicular instead of going in the opposite. So those factors are there, and generally shaving is safe. In fact, things like waxing can cause, a lot of people cannot tolerate that. So waxing can cause a lot of rashes and skin damage. So shaving is definitely better. And waxing will trigger hair growth after 2 or 3 weeks. Whereas when shaving, what happens is most of the hairs, the roots are retained within the skin. So there's no stimulus to develop a new root and grow vigorously. So it can actually give you long, and in an emergency, if somebody wants to shave, it's something that can be easily done. So shaving is harmless, and it's a myth that it actually causes thicker hair growth, because a lot of the times women have fine facial hair which become very prominent, and those can be easily shaved without any risk of getting thicker hair. Fine hair can be shaved and maintained. There's no problem. Shaving is safe, I would say, but do it right. Don't do it on dry skin or apply soap. A lot of the time people just apply basic soap and they shave and they cause burns, because soap is very alkaline, and it can, and when you shave, you're taking one layer of skin cells also out and allowing the soap to actually penetrate deeper. So the best thing to do is use the right tools. And shaving is a good way of managing unwanted hair.
Stretch marks. Now, at different point of time and different stages of life, of course, like for women after pregnancy, XYZ, they do tend to develop those. Men also after the exercise. Is there a way to reverse them, or is there a way that you can get them under control? Is it possible?
So stretch mark is a scar in the skin, and you cannot do away scars. So you can hope that, especially people who've gained stretch marks when they were overweight, and when they lose weight, their skin sort of contracts, the scar tissue contracts, so their stretch marks can become finer. But in cases where, in women, where the skin stretches to a point where, it causes a wide stretch mark, after delivery, once the body sort of regains its shape and loses that extra volume, the skin starts to contract naturally. There are devices which can speed up and help that process, like radio frequency, lasers. But you cannot eliminate a stretch mark. If your stretch mark is dark in color, you can do a laser and lighten and get it to background skin tone. You can improve the surface appearance of a stretch mark. And stretch marks are something that are very individual. There's an individual tendency to stretch marks. Like if you're prone to, it depends on the structure and the quantity of this protein called elastin in your skin. So if you have a good amount of it, then your skin will recoil without any stretch marks. But if you're not favorable with the quantity and the quality of the elastin, then you can develop stretch marks.
Understand.
So if anybody is prone to stretch marks, it's a good idea to watch your weight and not allow your skin to stretch too much, especially in pregnancy. A healthy pregnancy weight gain is about 10 to 12 kgs. Uh, so that'll minimize the number of stretch marks, because no amount of application of cocoa butter, moisturizer, rosehip oil will actually get, because women try all these things. None of these actually help with stretch marks. You have to limit the pregnancy weight gain.
Great, great. All right, thank you so much, Rickson, for doing this. It was a very interesting
Thank you for
conversation.
having me. It was a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes.
There's so much that we covered, and it's so interesting. I still have so many more questions, but I think I'll keep it
Yes.
for the next one for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I hope you had fun.
Thanks. Yes.